bike in transition, first thing to do is just have a quick check, because stuff always goes wrong on race day, just in case you might have dislodged something on the bus or in the car. So first thing to do, probably is check your brakes. Most importantly, you've got to stop at the end of your bike. So just have a little listen. If they're rubbing, you can adjust them, but that's fine. Same with the back as well. Nothing will slow you down, and you can stop. Back on. Alright, next thing is probably check the gear you're in as well. Most people will probably cycle down in a much bigger gear that you're going to want to start in. So you get on your bike and you're suddenly at the junction situation, and people stack it and they're in too big a gear. So just make it in something nice and kind, and then not have any calamities when you're there. So if you're using a bike computer or anything like that, it's best to get everything reset before you put your bike into transition. But another thing as well, I think.
General tightness, so as well when you're taking bikes down, you might have had to remove wheels, seat posts, things like that. It's just about making sure that everything's set up. Lewis had an issue last year with his seat post, being tied up enough, so when he jumped on it, it sat down. Yeah, you have to do the whole laps, way too low. So again, it's similar to a normal check that you'll do, that you should do anyway, to keep your bike ready. So the big difference is when you're going into race, the gear you're going to be leaving transitioning, especially if you're going to be doing flying mounts, so you're not actually going to have your feet in your shoes. You want to be in an easier gear to get spinning up.
I think it's a funny thing for races.
Yeah.
You're in a monster gear because they've warmed up and it or something. They get on the bike and they can't move.
It's just usual, so yeah. Brakes, obviously making sure they work, make sure they're not rubbing, taking wheels off. Tyre pressures, it's important. If you're using tubs, make sure they're done just before you race. Same with clinches really, but not as important. So that's probably just make sure the bike is ready so that when you grab it, nothing's going to surprise you as you go out into transition. Everything's absolutely as you left it.
All you have to think about is what you're going to do next, which is cycle transition. So one trick that I don't do, but people who look pro and are quite fast do, is they put their shoes like this in their bike.
We'll be going over mountain. We'll be going over mountain. It's not. You don't have to do it. But again, that does bear in mind how you set your bike up. Obviously, is in the gear you're in. You'll be in an easy gear typically because again, you want to spin up. You need to get your feet in. You don't want to be commanding a really big gear. Another thing is, which I've seen people do this, when you're doing your shoes in, make sure you put the right shoe on the right pedal. Don't laugh. This happened. Glover did that at the World this year.
Yeah.
Cost him quite a bit. Dan nearly did it last year. So yeah.
These elastic bands as well. These are just for show. These are Harry's. You need much smaller ones, much thinner.
We'll be going through mounting if anyone wants to try.
Probably rip the front derailleur off. I think I'm to pedal with this now. But I think that's all that covers it. It's basically the safety check you do almost subconsciously on a Sunday morning. Do come out, but just things can go wrong when you're transferring bikes, in buses and things like that.
I think
Showing laying out helmets and things like that, or?
Yeah, so what we'll do now, we'll just go through transition. So basically, we'll go through the rules because I know some of you want to use transition. So transition is basically an area where you're going to change disciplines. So for the duathlon, which obviously we've got next week, you're going to run in, get yourself ready to go out on the bike, and then run out. Basic rules of transition are no riding your bike in transition. There's a mount line in transition. Where you have to run past that line before you can get on your bike, and then coming in similarly you have to get off your bike before you hit that line. There'll be people shouting at you, so make sure you do it. They're very strict. It's not a case of, oh, I've got half a wheel over, do it before or after. That's absolutely fine.
Johnny Brownlee got about an inch of a wheel over the Olympics in 2012.
They will be quite strict at the duathlon, but we're quite strict last year. Next, no real transition. No. You're not allowed to touch your bike before your helmet is clipped and on. Similarly, when you're coming back in, you are not allowed to take your helmet off until your bike is properly racked. We had quite a few penalties last year for this. We are strict. One by a very young captain. So, the best way to get around this, we'll be doing some walking through transition. The best thing to do is when you come in, first thing you do is helmet on before you even think about anything else. And when you're going out, last thing you do is helmet off. Easy way to do it. We'll be walking through it, you'll be getting practice, so it's fine. Other rules, I think what else in transition. Those are the two main things you need to
Remember where your bike is.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
It's
when you
silly.
rock on the, yeah, when you rock on the morning, it's quite easy when you're in the race and you just go and we've got a number. You just put it there and you're like, oh, it's fine. It's a bit different when you've just run. You're running in, you're really hard, you're racing.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So the one I'd recommend is walking through transition. So once you've rocked, do the walk, and similarly do the walk back as well, because it's quite easy to find your. When you're running in, it's not too hard to find your bike because you can see it. When you come back in, you've got a pair of trainers, so don't go off where the rack is and any sort of visual aids around you, signs, banners, marshals, etc., things like that. Don't just hope that your bike will be there, because you honestly you won't remember it. So do the walk through. Anything else in transition? I think that's probably about.
Just the mountain lines are really important.
The mountain lines are really important, and the helmet thing is really important.
2-minute penalty if you even touch your clip, which I did. I was racking my bike and unclipping my helmet at the same time. 2-minute penalty straight away. So.
What about the